This video will go over 3 different types of graphing calculators that you can download for free. The first one we're going to discuss is the calculator. To access the free calculator, you would just click on Explore Calculator. The Lockdown Demo for instructors is an app where you can actually ask your students questions. You can click on this for more information. So let's click on Explore Calculator. So it gives you 3 options. You have a scientific, a graphing, and a matrix calculator. For this class, scientific calculator is what you really need. We use the scientific calculator in more detail in chapter 3. The graphing one you can use to check your work throughout the semester. And then the matrix calculator will be used quite a bit in chapter 8. So let's click on the graphing. So in chapter 1, you have to graph several different equations. So you can use this app to try to just check your work. So for example, let's say we wanted to type in y equals x squared. I'm using my keyboard right now to type this out. And you can see that the graph is going to be on the coordinate plane here. You can use the keyboard as well, which you can press on the lower right corner and the keyboard will appear. You also can just simply write x squared plus 4, and it would still write same equation. Let's say you want to compare to the following graph. Then it's gonna put it for you in a different color. If you want to see further, you can just click on the coordinate plane and you can move the graph around. If you want to look at specific points, you can click on the y-intercept here, for example. You can click where the lines intersect, and down here should be our x-intercept. You also can change, if you click on the upper right corner, you can click on the where it says rad. So here you can change from degrees to radians, and this is especially important for when you take 2412 or trig. You can also change your x-axis. So for example, if you just want to view from -5 to +5, and from -5 to +5, then you can see that the graph is going to adjust to those settings. By clicking on the graphing to the right, you can switch between calculators. If you click on this little plus sign over here, then you can input whatever it is that you want to do. So I can click table, for example. So in chapter 1.1, where you're doing plotting points. So let's say I click 2 here. I have a 3, 4, 5, and let's add one more, 5 and 6. Okay. So if you notice, it plot my 3 points over here in red. And then if you want to click this magnifying glass to zoom in or zoom out, or you can use the plus and minus sign on the left hand side. You can click on the arrow to expand the table so you can see it. And you can click on here to make the points appear or disappear. You can also add a list or an expression. So here, here I put y equals mx plus b. And if you notice here, m and b are going to be my variables here, my constants. So I can change this and you can see how the line is going to change. Let me clear some of these graphs so we can see it better. Okay, so if I change m to -2, and b is 3, let me go ahead and change our graph here. -10 to 10, and -10 to 10. Okay, so as you change this number, the graph is going to change. So if the slope is positive, as you learned in the last section, the graph is increasing. If it's negative, then the graph is decreasing. Let's make our b a -10. And so you can add expressions in here and manipulate the variables to see what happens with the graph. And so this is, if you want to press on Help Center, then it gives you some video tutorials that you can click to get more familiar with the program. And I want to show you the matrix calculator because I think that's a powerful tool for you to check your work when we get to chapter 8. So for the matrix one, on the left side, you have the letters that are used to name a matrix. You have your operations here in this column, and then of course your numbers. So for example, if you want to create a new matrix, you would press on new matrix. You can add columns. So let's say I want it to be 3 columns and 3 rows. Then we enter our numbers. And so now after you press enter, the matrix is going to be up here. And so now we can do things like, I want to know the inverse of A. So we press that. So that's your inverse. Let's say you want to know the transpose of A, and you want to know the determinant. You press this one. Let me erase this A. So that's the determinant of A. And let's create another matrix, B. Once you have 2 matrices, you can do operations such as add the matrices together. And so I can just say A plus B, and you'll get your answer. You can say multiplication. There's your answer, and so on. If you want to solve a system, which you'll learn more about what a system is in the next sections. So let's say that your system is 1, 3, 5, -2, 8, and 10. So let's see. So we can do RREF, and then you click C. And so here in your matrix, you can see that your answer for X is going to be 0.714, and your answer for Y would be 1.428. But you'll understand what I mean by RREF. Once we get to chapter 8, I'll create another video just on matrices so that you can see how that works. And then the last one is a scientific calculator. And this is basically just used so that we can find the logs. So for example, if I click on here, I can say log 4 of 8 and press enter. And we can do some other things, the natural log as well. But we'll get into this in more detail. You can also do some stats in here. So these are some stats. You can find the greatest common denominator, least common multiple, and so on. So that's the first one. The next calculator is decimals. And so to start with decimals, all you have to do is click on Start Graphing. I use decimals a little bit more than the other one. And so, for example, you just type in the information. It does have a keyboard on the left corner of the screen. You click on that. You can enter your information here if you don't want to use the keyboard. And what I like about Desmos is that you can do inequalities. I couldn't find that feature in the last example, in the last calculator. For example, here in chapter 7, you'll have to use inequalities. So, and so you can see here, the solution, if I had these two equations, would be in where you have the intersection, which would be this part of the graph. Here you can also add a table. So you can just plot in some numbers and so on. And it's gonna plot in those numbers here. You can click on the dots here to disappear them. And you can also add an image, which is really cool. So let me find an image here really quick. I'm gonna use my nephew. And so if you get a picture, let's say we're trying to find the parabola of his chin. I'm just making that up, but let's say we have, let's add x squared. Then I can drag this x squared, I'm gonna make it go down to about -5. So I'm gonna put in here -5, and then I'm gonna make it a little bit wider. Actually, let me go ahead and do this. And that's too wide, so let's say that's about it, right? So you can see that he's gonna have, if you wanted to find this equation, his chin kind of goes with this parabola, but you can put in a building or anything you want. So the point is you can put an image. If you click on the three bars here, I like this because it has different examples that you can look at. And so here, for example, it already has this, so you would just change your answers here. And you can see the graph changing. If you press on play, you can see what happens as you change B. You can see what happens as you change M. And they have a whole bunch of examples in here that you can look at. And so this calculator I couldn't find anything with matrices. So I like to use it for everything else. And then I like to use this one for the matrix part. On this graphing one, let me go back to the first one. I forgot to mention, for example, if I put A equals 1, let's see. We can define these variables. And so if you change this to a 2, then it's also going to change your graph. And so you can see what happens when these variables change. Similar to what I was explaining over here on the Desmos. Okay, so that's a Desmos. Now the third calculator, which I think is really cool, if we go to search virtual TI-83 calculator, then the first one that comes out, click on it. And you're gonna click on calculator and download this virtual TI graphing calculator. Once you download it, what I like about it is that it looks like an actual TI-83 calculator. So this is what will appear. You'll find it in your computer. There's 3, so you would click on this link here, and this is what will pop up. And what I like about it is basically if you're familiar with these calculators, then it works the same way. So with my mouse, I can just say 7, or first turn it on. And so I can say 7 plus 9. I can also use the matrix features that I normally would have if I was using this, holding it in my hand. And so this looks exactly like the real TI-83, which is similar to the TI-84. And so if you're used to these calculators, then this is just a free app that you can use for instructors. This is really great when you're making a video and you want to show exactly where the keys are that you want your students to press. Excellent tool. So these were just 3 examples of different calculators that you can use throughout the semester. Again, if you use the Desmos or the class calculator for graphing, I would encourage you to just use it to check your work. And then for chapter 8 and chapter 3 is when you really need the calculators to do some of those problems. And so in the near future, I will make a video just on matrices.